fellas.
Want to have an opening statement on the week on Indiana, Coach, then we'll take questions.
Well, I think that Florida State's like a lot of programs who have not had any exhibition games and didn't play any, well, very, very few, I guess, games to prepare ourselves. Starting off this way, this early, with the kind of schedule that we're facing is somewhat challenging. And to be very honest with you, I can't really even worry about the schedule as much as I have to concern myself with our team and how we are, where we are in relation to our preparation for the season. There's no question after the game we played the other night against North Florida, it's obvious that we have a long way to go, just from not chemistry, just from being in sync, just from learning, from a coaching standpoint, me learning movement, decision making, the soundness of your defensive system, holding the, maybe we holding the ball one dribble, two dribbles too much, not sprinting to get into certain spots to reverse the ball, to pass the ball to the guy who gets to assist. So many things that we are not efficient in concerns me with the development of where we are is, and now you have to be able to go out and perform at a much than you normally would have had you not had 4 or 5 games. We elected, and I'm glad we didn't, we elected not to play in any of the tournaments. That would have probably given us some more experience. We think that was the right thing to do in relation to where we were in terms of our development. But this is where we are. It's right on top of us. And I'm sure I'm not the only school in the country that's saying the same thing. We're not where I would like to be. Why do I say that? Well, for new guys to be efficient this early in the season with this level of competition and not very much experience. Most of the time, 2 years ago, Devin was the only senior we brought in. We brought in a couple other guys, but they were, Dominique was a 5th-year guy. Well, I'm sorry, the year before last, Devin was the only freshman I think we brought in. Last year, Dominique was a 5th-year guy. Ray Evans was a very experienced junior college player that was a savvy point guard. Even though he missed 6 or 7 weeks of practice with a torn hamstring, he had another maturity level. And then plus, Polite had been around enough where he could give me some backup minutes at the point guard while Ray was getting on top of his game. And then Patrick was obviously, for a kid to be the 4th pick in the draft, he had an unusual level of confidence and skill level that and maturity level than most freshmen coming in. So I didn't have that much of an adjustment. This year with Scottie moving from basically being a power forward and a utility guy to being a point guard is an adjustment. I'm pleased with the progress he's made, but it's almost virtually impossible to be as efficient as he will be with more experience, just because he has a high IQ. He makes great decisions. He's learning his teammates. He's learning how to utilize his skills in relation to where we are and who we are. So we still, that's a unique situation for us to be in. Sadar Calhoun, who is who is a junior college guy who's been able to, because of his athleticism, quickness, and speed, ability to score, has been able to put up numbers in junior college, but it's a lot different adjusting your style of play and to a new team and have to be efficient as early as we need him to be. He still, even though I'm pleased with his effort, he's still, we need some more games under our belt. And our two big guys, Tanoy played at a much lower level in Canada. He's adjusting to just the physicality, the intensity, the speed of the game. And Quincy is a guy who's similar to a lot of the big guys that we've gotten. Just he only needs experience and time. But I need those guys to be a little more efficient earlier than I normally have in order for us to be successful with the circumstances that we're operating under and the challenges of a schedule being so competitive right off the bat. So we got a ways to go. If that's a statement, that might have been a book, a documentary, but that was I had a lot to talk about.
We'll go to Lane Hurt for the first question.
Coach, like you said, it is just one game, but are there one or two main points of emphasis that you'd like to see the team improve upon going into this next game? Like you said, there's a ton of things, but are there some things that stick out to you that you think can be corrected quickly?
Gosh, Lane, to be honest with you, that's almost too many to mention. I love our attitude, the camaraderie, the togetherness, and I like our effort. It's just that the good thing is that we do have enough experienced guys returning that I think we can put some experienced guys on the floor that would allow us to be efficient. But the way we play, with the effort we play, the pace that we like to play at, you need to be just as efficient with your rotation players. And I use the rotation players, that term loosely, because rotation players to us doesn't mean necessarily rotation players to other programs. We like to have 10 starters. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they all have to be great players. We like to have guys who are well connected. For instance, we don't ever practice with the same players in practice. In other words, we mix our groups up all the time. In other words, we'll have 3 groups and players rotate through. Every day we mix them up so that, because we're trying to develop instincts of how to communicate and play with each other because of the style of ball that we play. So we went back, I think, in the latter part of the game the other night, I put my most experienced guys on the floor, and the lead went from like 14 to 25 because of the efficiency of not necessarily being a great player, but just in what we do and how we do it. I have to have everybody on the same page in order for us to be effective. And right now, we don't have anybody. It's not a selfishness. It's not anything that, from an attitude standpoint, my kids got great attitude. It's just that we just haven't had time to develop. In other words, the cake's still in the oven. It's where we are, and that's something we have to accept.
Got a follow-up, Lane?
I'm good for now. Thank you, Chuck.
Go to Kurt Weiler from the Democrat.
Hey, Coach, you talked about the young guys. I mean, with how non-traditional this season is, how short the non-conference is, how important is this week in terms of showing these guys kind of they get their first look, I guess, what an ACC caliber opponent looks like?
You guys I wish I had the luxury to worry about this week. I don't. I got to worry about today's practice. I'm not going to allow myself to get too far ahead because I see it. I watch films. We're just a developing team, like a lot of guys. And when I watch the games over the weekend, I see, for instance, Indiana, this will be their 5th game, I believe, correct? Okay.
Yes.
I think that they probably have worked through some of the things that I'm just now dealing with, So that's that's a pretty good situation going on the road, playing the challenge with a lot of film work, a lot of corrections, a lot of just development from the mental aspect of being comfortable and not being overly excited and nervous or indecisive about things. They've worked their way through some of those things. And so, we have to find a way in the next couple of days to accelerate that learning curve that they all go through. And so the importance of the week to me is the importance of the day's practice and to see how much progress we can make in terms of pointing out those things that we need to know in order to be successful, be at our best. And right now, that's just the nature of where we are in terms of this season with what we've had to deal with. And I'm not trying to, believe me, I'm not making any excuses. I'm excited about my team and the potential of where we are and what we're capable of doing. It's just I'm trying to be honest and not our intentions are to go win games, and but that's who we are, and that's where we are. I think this team, I'm just foolish enough to think that we could be pretty good, and I think physically the pieces are there, and it'd be interesting to see how fast we develop and how efficient we are as we approach the game on Wednesday.
The follow-up, Kurt? Next up is Joey Lamar.
Hey, Coach. I looked at the box score from the last game, and 12 players played at least 7 minutes. Is that something that you expect, this Wednesday against Indiana? And is that, the number that we can expect,
Joy,
as we hit ACC play?
Joy, did you really ask me that?
I just want to know.
I mean, did you? And you're serious? You're not joking with me? You're not saying surprise?
No.
Well, Joey, listen. No disrespect to North Florida. They've been traveling all over the place. We think that we probably had, with that best player being out, leading scorer, I thought we would win the game. And it's important that we get guys in games. It's important that we get guys experience on the floor. And we played all 12 guys. I think all 12 guys might have played in the first 10 minutes. I think. I'm not real sure. But as a coach, these guys have been working hard, and, I had to sacrifice maybe some efficiency, some execution, maybe a more serious approach to, not serious, not the word, a more efficient approach to the game to get guys in the game, get flow. I know you probably don't realize this, but when beginning of the season, there's a lot of anxiety and anxiousness when you're dealing with young people. And so I had to try to get as much of that out of the way as possible. but I was liberally substituting because I felt we were going to win the game, and my thought was to try to just get guys some experience and get them on the floor and keep them fresh. But I'm not going to have the luxury of playing 12 guys in the first 10 minutes in ACC play. So, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but that was a different type of approach. I don't think I would have the luxury of doing that against a quality team like Indiana, who's coming in with 4 games under their belt, very good coach, a very determined team that has an unbelievable tradition and success over the years. I think they might have they won 3 or 4 Final Fours. I don't know, something unbelievable, some impressive amount. So I'm still in the incubator stage. The cake's still in the oven. We're still developing while we are trying to win games against high level competition. So I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm just, I know that you asked that question because you probably thought about it, but I don't think I would have the luxury of doing that. It's just, we're gonna have to be on point. We got to be a lot more efficient. I can't be doing it experimenting, and unfortunately, I gotta have to do a little bit of experimenting because I got inexperienced players. So that's kind of where we are, Chief. And I wish I had the luxury of doing that, but right now we're still trying to find ourselves. I'm trying to find out who can do what, and I only had 40 minutes to do that. So I like what I saw from an effort standpoint, and there were some bright spots, but we're a long ways away from, we're not that talented, that good. We're not that efficient where you can expect to see that, that liberal substitution probably won't be going on as much. Okay.
You got a follow up, Joey?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Coach.
Go to Antoine from the Democrat.
Coach, I know you talked about how inexperienced your team is, but just talk about how long do you expect this process to go on, especially defensively? I know how unhappy you said you were, especially giving up the amount of 3-pointers that you did against North Florida.
Well, every game takes on a different personality. For instance, when you play against a team that really shoots threes, you can't help as much on the strong side. You have to kind of do what you call stunt and stay and not get sucked in. That's just a mind set you have to get into. And when you have teams who specialize in shooting as many threes as North Florida, I think they led the nation in 3-pointers attempt last year. We didn't adjust to their system nearly as much because they wasn't a team to kind of attack the basket. They didn't have a real strong inside game, so we had no need to help on the strong side as much. We should have been fanning out toward the man as opposed to being drawn in. That's just a technique that is hard sometimes to break. That's why you move the ball. That's why you reverse the ball. That's why you get paint touches to create rhythm jump shots. And we weren't very good at that the other night. That's part of being able to make that adjustments. Some schools help with their post man. We've shrunk. We shrink gaps with our people. I mean, our strong side people, and we didn't make those adjustments very much. That's one of those techniques that I think that you have to just have to develop, where one game you are helping because of the strengths of this team, and the next team you have to adjust it differently. And that shows the inexperience of our team, our inability to adjust on the fly like that now. And we've always been able to, what we call stunt and stay, and sometimes we help them recover. Those are just different things that we do, and we're not very good at that right now. When we haven't played against people who create these different problems, and sometimes you do that when you got 2 exhibition games, and you might have 2 or 3 tune-up games. We jumping from the frying pan right into the fire, and hopefully that would create a sense of urgency with our team that will allow us to accelerate our progress. And but we're going through the process right now. Hopefully we'll be able to prepare ourselves mentally and be a little more defensively efficient. Like against Indiana, it's a whole nother ball game. They got a guy who had 13 double-doubles. So we might need to put 5 guys on him. I don't know.
You have a follow-up, Antoine? Go to Kevin Brockway.
Yeah, Coach. Hey, on that point, how do you feel like you guys match up front court wise with, Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, and what kind of read do you have on your team's physicality right now?
Well, I'm sure that their big kid, I think his name is Brunk. I'm sure he'll probably be ready to play against us. I think he's been out a couple of games. At least I'm expecting him to play. They probably, I think he's a senior transfer in, I think, from somewhere. I think they're probably a little farther along with their interior people, at least those 3 guys. And I think they got a kid named Hunter that comes off the bench. But those 3 guys in their rotation are very, very talented. They're physical, they're strong, and they're very efficient in their system. Jackson Davis is a man child. He reminds me a lot of Bernard James that was here, left-handed and strong, finishes well around the basket, and he's a matured, confident guy, and he's a handful. I don't know if you can. I haven't seen anybody really keep him from doing what he does. Sometimes if he's just efficient, no wasted motion. I don't know if I've ever coached anybody in all my coaching career that's had 13 double-doubles in a season. And he did it as a freshman. Now, I've been coaching a long time, so I got to go back and check. And I've been on teams with a lot of really good players and guys who play at the highest level. I don't ever remember. I've had some really good players. I know Bernard James didn't do that, and I got to go back and look at my whole coaching career to know if I've ever even shook the hands of anybody who had 13 double-doubles in one season.
Maybe.
Who?
Tim James back at Miami.
I don't know if it's 13 double-doubles. I've had Sam Bowie, who's the 2nd pick in the draft, Melvin Turpin, who's the 7th pick in the draft, Fiondu Kabengele, who's 1st round pick. And I've coached some pretty good kids. I got to look back and see maybe Byron Houston at Oklahoma State might have. I don't know, and he was just. But I'm not real sure I've been around anybody like that. That's Hall of Fame stuff. Those Hall of Fame stats. 13. That's a freshman, which means that most guys really improve between their freshman and sophomore year. That's pretty high quality stuff there, fellas. And
Follow up, Kevin.
Scottie Barnes, what have you seen from his development so far?
I think that he's made a tremendous amount of progress from being a versatile guy who plays all kinds of positions to my primary point guard. That says a lot about him, but it's almost virtually impossible to be totally on point in your second game of the year, changing positions from being what he's done in the past, but he has a high IQ and his effort is good and he's enthusiastic. So I expect him to make progress with each outing, with each practice. He absorbs things very well. That's why we thought that he would make the adjustment. He's making the adjustment well, but he still is a freshman who's playing the second game, and I'm sure he'll be better with each game, with each practice.
Go to Allison Posey.
Hey, Coach. In a year like this, you mentioned just the lack of experience on this team, the youth on this team. Do
Okay, no. Let's. I don't want to mislead you guys. I have some experience.
a little bit more in a year like this?
I have experience on our team.
Yeah.
I got walk-ons that are graduate students. 4 of them. I got three guys that are seniors, and I have some 4th-year juniors. So I don't want you to think that I'm hiding behind inexperience. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you, I have 4 new guys that need to be that aren't experienced, that I need to be efficient in order for this edition of Florida State's team to be as good as some of the teams we've had in the last several years. So I don't want anybody, because we do have experience, but in order for us to be effective in relation to our style of play, I need for 4 guys to be a little bit more prepared at this stage of the season than we normally need guys to be efficient in. So that's just where we are now. I like them. They're making progress. They're hard workers, and they're talented enough that I feel confident that at some point, I won't be saying that. But that's where we are. So we do have experience. And the question that young man asked me earlier about how many guys I play, I could be forced to play with a shorter bench than what I've been accustomed. A shorter rotation than what I've been accustomed to. I hope not, because we got conference games staring us in the face, and even though our non-conference schedule is important to us, I need where we are in relation to our conference is going to make the difference in how efficient we are. We hope that we can win our non-conference games as we approach them, but right now I'm just worried about getting better every day. I'm just worried about trying to develop some efficiency with who we are and where we think we like to be. So now, what was your question? Yes, Allison?
It was more along the lines of the guys. I know you have experience, obviously, on this team, but in a year like this, where the lack of practice time during the summer, do you turn to the guys that are returners coming back to kind of influence the young guys a little bit more because of the lack of time you've had with them?
Absolutely, and we've gotten a lot of that. But you're 100% right. This is just where we are, and early in the season. So I'm anxious to see, whether or not we can accelerate that process with more attention to detail, maybe a little more diligent film sessions, more conversation with our players, more attention to detail. What I do like is that the fact that a team the caliber of Indiana definitely gets our attention because of the respect we have for their program, respect we have for the coach and the system that they're playing, and you can see them getting better and better with each year. And I think that most people in Indiana would think that this should be their year to. And last year they probably would have gone to the NCAA tournament, but this is probably their best team, their most experienced team, and even though they have some young players that they are integrated into their system as well, those guys. I'm sure Coach got to speak for himself, but I'm sure he has some similar concerns with his guys as well as I do. So, like I said, we're probably in similar situations, but I think he has in relation to how we play, the number of players that we play and how we like to rotate our guys, it probably is a little more concern of mine than would be most programs. And I can't speak for Indiana's because I don't know exactly what their philosophy is, but I do feel that it's more of an issue with us because of how we play offensively and defensively.
Go to Ira from Warchant.
Hey, Leonard, having had that one game and then having basically a week to kind of prepare for your next game, have the young guys had an opportunity to learn a lot from that first game because they haven't had to rush right back into another game?
Well, there's no doubt that the game opened their eyes to some of the things that we know we need to be efficient at, except that North Florida's an altogether different team than Indiana. Indiana's more of a balanced team, though, with three really, really good inside post guys that will give you a lot of heartburn because you can't make very many mistakes with them. And then they have an experienced perimeter game and some good young high school kids coming off that are really, really good in terms of their talent. So this is a different game, a different level of preparation. But I'm even as much respect I have for them, a lot of it is about us and us just understanding, that we don't have the luxury of making some of the mistakes we made in the other game. We got to be. We had that team outmanned. We're not going to have this team outmanned. They're going to be just as good as any ACC team that we play all year. So we don't have the luxury of not being on point with all our fundamentals. That doesn't. But that's good because that's going to create another level of focus with us. And so, I think they see it. But we can show them all we want to until you out there on the floor with guys with speed and quickness and strength and power that can just hurt you in so many different ways. Like Indiana, it's still hard for them to actually really see what it's like when you're going against each other every day in practice, and then you play a team that led the nation in 3-point shots attempted last year. Now you're going against a team with a guy who has 13 triple doubles, and Thompson, who is really, really just as effective. And I'm sure they're going to have a fourth-year junior in Bronk. I think his name Bronk. That'll probably be ready. That is a 7-foot, big old strong guy that create some issues that we didn't face against North Florida. So preparing them and showing them is one thing, but I think what might have been one of the boxers said that, things change when you get in the boxing ring and get hit that first time. It's a little different, and this is all together. I don't know whether or not I can say that North Florida prepared us for what we are facing on Wednesday, because of the nature of the style of ball and the interior talent that Indiana brings to the table, as well as perimeter guys. They're probably just as good efficient on the perimeter as North Florida with an interior game that's comparable to anything we'll face in the ACC.
You have a follow-up, Ira?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Coach.
Go to Chris Nee.
Good morning, Leonard. In what ways has Balsa developed over the last year, especially this offseason preparing for year two?
He's gotten an awful lot stronger. And I saw him in the hall the other day, and I said, "You don't get pushed around near this much." And he was telling me that Coach Bradley had taken some photos of him when he came. And he was a lot bigger. I mean, he weighed a lot more, but his body has changed totally. We were joking about how much stronger and how much weight he's lost, but how he's developed physically in relation to the way he was when he came in as a freshman. But there's no doubt that he's made tremendous improvement, and he's still developing. We're working a lot on his perimeter game now and developing a little jump shot. He's probably not ready to display it yet, but he's been very focused. He's getting better, and I expect him to have a good year for us. He's a guy who's serious in his approach, and he's becoming more efficient. Just learning how we need to play within who we think we are. It has been an adjustment for him. He was at Mount Vernon, and he might have been the fourth or fifth option at best, where in our system, everybody's an option. In order for us to be efficient, he has to be consistent with what we're asking him to do in order for us to be effective as a team. So he doesn't have the luxury of not being on point every possession, and that's not what he was accustomed to. When you're on a team with 4 or 5 guys that probably gonna play in the NBA in high school, and you still kind of a growing, developing guy, you don't have that sense of urgency. So he's growing in those areas. I'm very pleased with him, and I think that he's important to us, and he's. I think you're gonna see him get better and better as the season goes.
Is there a follow-up, Chris?
I'm good. Thank you.
We'll go to Tom Brew.
Hey, Coach. Good morning. Last year your team really developed so nicely during the course of the year, where you had potential Final Four team for sure. Can you tell me a little bit about how difficult that was, that March didn't happen last year, and what you think of this team if this team can to develop into that type of team by March as well?
Your name Tom?
Yes.
Okay, Tom. Last year's team had some intangible strengths that in terms of confidence, in terms of guys who really got better in stressful moments. That's a special mindset that athletes develop over the years, where when the game's on the line, they want to be in that moment, and they're effective in terms of like Patrick and Trent and Devin. We won 9 straight overtime games with Trent Forrest being our point guard. I've never heard of that. 9 straight overtime games. We lost 3 games at home in 4 years with Trent Forrest being our point guard. Devin Vassell's, if the game was on the line, the ball was in his hand, he had a good look. More than likely something good was going to happen. This team is, so that team had the ability, when in stressful moments, they remain calm and maintain their composure. I can't say that about this team yet. I'm not, but physically, in terms of running, jumping, quickness, speed, athleticism, I don't know if we have totally replaced it, but I'm I feel that if we grow and mature mentally and emotionally, then we have a chance to be a pretty good team. Whether or not, you have a guy like Trent Forrest who makes all good decisions for you when the game's on the line, that's unique and special, and you putting Scottie Barnes in that situation. But I think the combination of Scottie Barnes and Evans, and believe it or not, our third backup point guard has developed into Raquan Gray, our 6'8", 260-pound power forward. So I won't say that I think we got a chance to be that, because those mentally, emotionally, intangible things is hard to put. But I think we'll be different, and we have a chance to be just as a good team because of the physical parts of what we bring to the table. I think that we did lose something. We lost the confidence that you get from going to playing in a conference tournament. You learn from the experience, whether you're successful, whether you're not. I also think that going to the NCAA and participating for a national title gives you a certain level of confidence that you can't gain any other way other than crossing that bridge to putting yourself in a position to compete for a national title. Those things we missed, but I think we've handled it well. We've tried to challenge our players that some people would be mature enough to understand that those are life's challenges that we have to adjust to, and those teams who don't adjust to it and grow from it and utilize that lack of opportunity as a motivator to want to get back to that point, maybe might not be as focused. You can't have a pity party. We can't let that be a distractor. We got to let it motivate us. And I'm hoping that's what this team is doing. We've talked about it from a coaching standpoint, but that maturity level that comes with those experiences sometimes is hard to replace.
Any more questions for Coach today? Go to Antoine from Democrat.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about Nathaniel Jack and just kind of his progress and what have you seen from him? Because I know you mentioned him after the last game.
Who'd you say?
Nathaniel Jack.
Oh, Nate. he there's no question that he's developed into one of our better shooters, along with Wyatt Wills, even though I think he might have shot an air ball. I think we are an improved perimeter shooting team. He's kind of a specialist. His attitude's been great. He's improved defensively. He has a level of confidence that's kind of refreshing. We tell him that if he can see the orange on the rim, it's a good shot. So I don't want him to feel inhibited because that's what he does. I think that he's in a position to. I expect him to have some good games for us this year. Right now, the challenge that we have, the schedule we have, and trying to develop the rotation of how to utilize these guys is a little challenging for me. And our team's learning about how to play with each other, especially utilizing a kid like Jack and his ability to, to make shots. As a coaching staff, we are learning about them. They're learning about us. We learn about each other. And we got to find a way to utilize what he brings to our team. I was telling our guys the other day, we have to find a way to learn how to play to each other, create for each other, and make the game easier for each other. that's the next step in our development, that we realize where each team, the strengths of each one of your teammates, and then we have to learn how we need to play to each other. And right now, we haven't played enough games for this edition of the Seminole team to work all those kinks out. So you guys are watching us develop right in front of your very eyes. We lack a garden. This needs to keep being fertilized and watered and getting some sunlight and growing. And that's where I feel that we are. We just hope that we can win enough games while we're still growing, still developing. That's the challenge for this team.
Everybody all set? Anybody need anything? All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.